What up, YouTube? Big Lou back at ya. One more again with a little bit more boxing from Saturday night. Excuse me, Saturday night in New York. I believe it was at I don't know whether at the Barclay or Madison Square Garden. But anyways, Teofimo Lopez steps back in the ring now at 140 pounds. This was his second bout at junior welterweight, which is also being called super lightweight, which is the 140-pound division. This, like I said, this is his second fight since losing his titles to Kambosos Jr. Excuse me, he stepped up in weight now at 140 again, and he fought Sandor Martin. I believe he's a Spaniard. He last beat Mikey Garcia to put his name in the mix, and so him and Teofimo Lopez fought for a WBC elimination bout, 10-round bout, and Sandor Martin had a lot to say. So he just spent 10 rounds in the ring with Teofimo Lopez, and it convinced him, this being Sandor Martin, that the next Southpaw Lopez might fight will tear through him. And Spanish contender predicted that WBC super lightweight, or it could be called junior welterweight champion Regis Progress, will handle Lopez easily if they eventually fight for the 140-pound title. Lopez moved closer to a shot at Progress crown when he ended Martin by split decision in their WBC elimination match Saturday night, and it's at Madison Square Garden. My bad, it slipped my mind. Now Regis Progress will kill him. That's what Sandor Martin told ESPN's Bernardo Osuna following his close loss. Progress will kill him 100%. While also left-handed, Progress 28-1 with 24 knockouts is a much harder puncher than Sandor Martin is with his 40-3 record with 13 knockouts. The 33-year-old New Orleans native became the first opponent to knock out Jose Cepeda 36-3 with 28 knockouts, whom Progress dropped and stopped in the 11th round to win the then vacant WBC 140-pound championship in California just a few weeks ago. Progress must make a mandatory defense of his belt against former WBC WBO champion Jose Ramirez, who's a California native, Northern Cali, Avenal, California, and his record is 27-1 with 17 knockouts, and he had lost his belts to Josh Taylor. Progress Ramirez winner could be obligated to defend his title against Lopez because Lopez became the WBC's second mandatory challenger Saturday night. According to WBC rules related to fights for vacant championships, winners must make two mandatory defenses. So the Brooklyn-born Lopez now is 18-1 with 13 KOs. Is still more likely to pursue the only fighter who has beaten Progress, Josh Taylor. Then a shot at Progress belt if Taylor stays in the junior welterweight division later in 2023. So see, sometimes in the same article, it says junior welterweight for 140 pounds, and then it calls it super lightweight. So that's the difference. I mean, it just depends. You got to pay attention. Junior welterweight is 140 pounds. Super lightweight is 140 pounds. Same division. Same thing with junior middleweight and super welterweight. It's 154. So you got to watch, pay attention to that, peoples. Scotland's Taylor is 19-0 with 13 KOs. First needs to get past English southpaw Jack Catterall, 26-1, 13 knockouts in their 12-round rematch, which will be scheduled soon for a date late in February or early March and at OVO Hydro in Glasgow. Whereas Progress is promoted by Probellum, Taylor and Lopez are promoted by Bob Arum's Top Rank, which would make their fight easier to put together. And that's a bunch of bullshit too. That's a bunch of crock of shit. Fights could be made. It doesn't matter if you're promoted by Top Rank and Bob Arum or by Al Heyman PBC or by Golden Boy or by DAZN or by anybody. Fights could be made, man. It's just a bullshit ass excuse. What happens is these guys that promote these fighters, they try to keep the stable. They're within their own stable fighting each other. That way they get all the money. That's all it boils down to. there shouldn't be no reason. It should be a 50-50 down the line when you're going to fight like Spence and Crawford. They're both well-established world champions. Hell of a resume, I believe Spence has him beat out just a little bit because of the last 5, 4, 5, 6 fights he fought, whatever it is. But these fights could be made. It's all a bunch of bullshit. This is what I want to end off with this. Sandor Martin, meanwhile, feels that he was robbed by the judges Saturday night. The Barcelona baseball contended during his aforementioned interview with Osuna that he easily defeated Lopez in a main event ESPN televised. I have the art of boxing. Punch and not punch me, Martin said. You know, I'm an artist. He's a showman. I'm a boxer. And he did drop him a flash drop, which some people said it was a slip. You know what I mean? Lopez had asked, he had made a comment, but it was like an ask. He asked his dad if he still had it. You know, the thing is with this though, sometimes some guys outshine other guys different. You know, it's like that football saying, any given Sunday. You know, some guys just come out and got it that night. They feel it. You know what I'm saying? Other guys sometimes have an off night. It just is what it is. But I'm a firm believer that, and this wasn't the case with this fight, but I am a firm believer that if you're the champion, you either got to get knocked the fuck out. May look silly, like where you're getting knocked over every round, or every 2-3 rounds you're getting dropped. Or, you know, just being outboxed. I mean, it's got to be like where you're made look silly. Like, you know, when you're the champion, that's the way you got to go out. I don't believe none of this shit. 1 round, 1 point, you know, this guy won by 1 point or 2 points, and you're fighting the champion. You know what I'm saying? The champion needs to be knocked the fuck out, or, like I said, made to look silly. You know what I'm saying? Now, that wasn't the case here with Lopez and Martin, but nonetheless, you know, sometimes guys have off nights, you know. So Lopez needs to get that fire back. I was watching Showbiz. He has a lot of great points he makes, and one of them was, he's not saying that, you know, he needs to change his, you know, his team at all, but maybe add something. And I'm a firm believer on this too. Guys that have their father as trainers, I believe that at some point in their careers, it's more of it hinders them more. It keeps them stagnant. It keeps them stuck. You know what I'm saying? And that goes for Danny Garcia and his dad Angel. I believe that your father can only take you so far, as well as a trainer. If you're with a trainer so long, at some point, I believe, especially when you start getting a loss here and there, I believe there's changes needed, and you need to bring somebody else in. You know what I'm saying? Like, perfect example was like how De La Hoya did, and Mosley did, and different guys did, where, you know, Miguel Cotto, he left his uncle. He ended up going over with Freddie Roach, and look, he became middleweight champion of the world. You know what I mean? So at some point, I believe that that's needed. Change is needed. And like with Danny Garcia, Roy Jones, you know, he left his dad, different things. But I believe Sean Porter being with his dad, Danny Garcia being with his dad, Trinidad being with his dad, I believe it hurts him later down the road. You know what I'm saying? Like Trinidad, he was a welterweight champion. He held 2 belts at the welterweight. He held 2 belts at the junior middleweight. He held 1 belt at middleweight. And then he loses Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins becomes undisputed. He loses Bernard Hopkins. And I think after that, he only had 1 more shot. I think he got 1 more title shot after that with Winky Wright. And Winky Wright dominated him with the jab. But that was it. I mean, I seen guys that they fight for titles 5, 6 times. And sometimes they'll be on a losing streak and go up in weight and fight again for another title. So I believe that some of that hurts these guys when they stay with their family member, or the majority is usually their father, but Miguel Cotto was his uncle. You know what I mean? So I believe that hurts him. So I think at some point here, Teofimo Lopez Jr. needs to make some type of change. You know, I don't know how that would sit with his father, if his father would take somewhat of a backseat, or co-head trainer with somebody else. But something needs to get lit under that boy's ass to get him fired up again. You know what I mean? And get that love of boxing and that craving of boxing. Sometimes, even if it's only 5 pounds, sometimes that can really fuck somebody up with their their power and their speed. You would think you put the weight on, it would increase your power, but some guys it doesn't. Like with Danny Garcia, he still got great boxing skills, but I believe him now at 154, I don't believe he has that punching power that he had at 140. You know what I mean? Or even 147, but definitely 140. He knocked out a lot more guys. 147, it was more going the distance. But I believe at 154, he doesn't have that power like he did before. So maybe that's what's going on with Lopez, with Teofimo Lopez Jr., you know what I mean? But definitely Sandor, Martin Field, southpaw such as Portis will, walk right through him and kill him. Maybe he needs to get back to the drawing board and figure out something when it comes to sparring with southpaws and getting more down to the business when it comes to southpaw. Study it more and something. I really believe that he needs to bring something more to the table as far as when it comes to strength, coaching staff. Bring his head coach, bring another players. Another eyes in this year, and be prepared, young man, to get some constructive criticism and stuff. With Lopez, as well as Taylor and some of these other guys, man, Lomachenko, they're becoming champions so young with only, 12, 15 fights professionally, and they're already champions. And then they get beat, and it's like devastating. You know what I mean? Look at Marvelous Hagler. He didn't get a title shot till like 40, 50 fights into his career. That was out of the question, man. Usually, even regularly, it would be like, anywhere from 22 fights to 30 fights before a guy would get a title shot. Look at Boots, Gerard Enos, Boots out of Philly. He's like what, 28-0? He ain't got a title shot yet. You know what I mean? So that was the norm for boxers. Not David Morrell, WBA regular champion, 8 fights into his career, 7 fights into his career. Lomachenko, you know what I mean? What was he, like 6 fights into his career and he had a belt already? It's fucking crazy, man. Now I know Lomachenko's a little different because he had 400 amateur fights and he only lost 1. You know what I mean? He had a hell of a experience, stuff like that he brought to the table. But then they get beat and it's like, it's like, a lot of times I believe that damages some of these guys, psychologically and, mentally, psychologically. Some guys, when they lose, it really jacks them up. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens with Teofimo Lopez. Nonetheless, he still got the win. And it is what it is. So he'll be going forward. We'll see what's next for him and what's, matchmaking wise with his team and Bob Arum and all them, and see what they can do for the youngster and see what's next for him. But he will be fighting for a title again soon. Pregis and Taylor. I think Taylor has only 2 belts now. I think he was undisputed at one point. He got a couple belts stripped, and then Regis has a WBC. Excuse me. Taylor has a couple belts, and I'm not sure who has that last belt. But with that being said, he will be getting in there. Teofimo Lopez will be in there at some point and fighting for a belt. That being said, Big Lou, tapping on out.